Hello, and welcome back to my podcast, Manna at the Tap. My name is Gloria, and as always, Saturday is a recap day for the past week's learnings. It's like collecting the leftovers in the fridge and having a potluck gathering. Today is Saturday, April 6th, 2024, and we were back and forth in the Gospels of John and Mark and the Old Testament books of Genesis and Daniel. There is nothing that can be compared with resurrection morning. The women were Jesus' disciples who stayed at the cross and watched as he was laid in the grave of a rich man, Joseph of Arimathea. Oh boy, I'm having problems with that word. After that, there was nothing else but to go home, prepare, and rest during the Sabbath. They hoped that as soon as the Sabbath was over, they would return to complete the job of embalming Jesus' body with spices. They saw how Jesus' body was deformed from the beatings and from the strain of being on the cross, but that did not stop them from wanting to care for him in death as they had cared for him in life. Who made the beautiful one-seam garment that was Jesus's trademark? The women must have been hurt as they watched the guards gamble for it. The gamblers were in the presence of Jesus, and they were unaware of who he was, and they ignored him. Sometimes we are just like that. In the presence of someone significant, we ignore them, unaware of who they are. Both John's and Mark's Gospels tell us about the empty tomb, and all the Gospel writers agree that women played an essential role on Resurrection Day. They were the first people at the tomb. As they were going towards the tomb, though, they feared the darkness and who might be near it, but they walked on. Many rumors were flying around. The religious leaders heard Jesus' disciples were going to steal his body, so they added more security to watch the tomb. The disciples, on the other hand, were afraid that the same people who killed Jesus were coming for them, and so they hid out in an unidentified location. Rumors cause us to fear the worst and the unknown. What we need is direction in our lives so we can make good decisions. In his story, Mark says a young man in white clothing tells the women to see the empty tomb, and they are given a message and a promise. The message was simple: go and tell his disciples he has risen. He's not in the tomb. The promise was that Jesus was going ahead of them into Galilee where they would see him, just as he had told them. The women were surprised by everything. They fled from the tomb and said nothing to anyone. Mark's perspective of the resurrection is that Jesus is absent and not in the tomb. Jesus is at the margins of life, and his feet are firmly planted. The women came to the tomb to perpetuate a tradition, a ritual, as they had done before. But they discovered that Jesus' death led to the resurrection, and the resurrection led to a new life, and the new life was to communicate with others and let their witness and testimony be, I have seen the Lord. Mary Magdalene, the main character in John's story on Resurrection Sunday, was told to gather the disciples together especially Peter, and meet Jesus in Galilee. He would be waiting there for them, just like he said. Mary Magdalene wanted to know where Jesus' body was so she could take it away and care for it. But Jesus was interested in calling her by name and giving her an assignment with the living, not with rituals for the dead. Jesus told Mary, "You cannot cling to me. I'm on my way to my Father. You must tell the message. I have seen the Lord." People knew Mary's Magdalene's reputation. She was a wealthy woman who had a mental illness and was possessed by 7 demons. Jesus healed her, and she became one of his disciples who stayed close to him. And what an excellent reward for her faithfulness. She was the first person that Jesus spoke to, and because he healed her, he could entrust her to deliver the simple message to his disciples: I have seen the Lord.